Hey friends, what's up? Kevin here from the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 to Today YouTube channel. And today we are going to be reviewing the long-awaited second album from the supergroup fronted by one of my favorite frontmen of all time, Adam Gontier. I've been waiting for this one. This is a review of Flawed Design by Saint Asonia. Alrighty, let me go over how this review is going to work again because we have changed it up from our previous ones and we've tried this one with the Alter Bridge review of Walk the Sky, so we're going to do it here. First, I'm going to give you a background on Saint Asonia, so we're all kind of caught up to this point on how the band got to Flawed Design. Then I'm going to comment on three major aspects of the album. I'm going to comment on its themes and meaning, I'm going to comment on its construction instrumentation, and I'm going to comment on the vocal performance itself, so you're going to get a full take of the album from those three sides. Then I will rate the album on a scale of 0 to 10, of course 0 being the absolute worst, 10 being the absolute best, and I will then summarize why we give it that rating. So without further ado, Captain Tennille from MXC, Most Extreme Elimination, hit me with it!
Going down. Get it on!
Alrighty, so let's go over a little bit of the background on Saint Asonia so we're all caught up to speed. Now, Adam Gontier, the frontman for Saint Asonia, left his flagship band, 3 Days Grace, back at the beginning of 2013. So he'd been gone for a little bit. Then around May of 2015, the song Better Place off of their first album was released on YouTube, and then they debuted as a band live at Rock on the Range on May 16th, 2015. They played songs like Fairy Tale and Let Me Live My Life, I believe. Then their self-titled album came out on July 31st, 2015. It peaked at around number 29 on the Billboard Top 200. And personally, when I heard it the first time, I thought this is like 3 Days Grace 2.0. So you could easily tell that 3 Days Grace before Adam Gontier left was all Adam Gontier writing style, and it was heavily influenced by him. So when Saint Asonia's first album came out, he kept with that exact same style, and it is his own unique style. Now, 3 Days Grace doesn't necessarily have that style with Matt Walsh, but that's a story for a different day. Now, we're on a Flawed Design, so the inspiration behind it was something very interesting. The band had been working on songs for Flawed Design since their first album came out in 2015, but around 2017, this is when things started taking a turn, when Adam Gontier had to go to rehab because I believe it was for alcohol addiction, and while he was in rehab, his son was born. He had to miss the birth of his own son, which on that day was considered to be the turning point of his life on that specific day, because of course you miss the birth of your own son, it's gonna weigh on you heavily. So the band really got to work on writing music and really focusing in on the themes of hardship and not being perfect. So that's kind of where Flawed Design really comes in. Now, the first single for Flawed Design was released in July of 2019, and I was psyched because like the band is finally coming back, and the full album was released on October 25th, 2019, and Adam actually called this his best work since 1X, which is the best 3 Days Grace album out there. So that's a huge task to take on. Personally, I was really excited to hear this album come out because I'd been waiting for this one since I first heard of Saint Asonia, and I am jazzed up about it. I'm ready to go, so let's get on into it. Alright, so let's take a look at the overall and overarching meaning of Flawed Design as an album, and we'll take a look at a couple of songs as well. So an overarching theme of the album, I believe it's best described in the titular track, which Adam Gontier spoke about, where it's a commentary on people trying to be perfect in society and always trying to go after what society wants them to be, instead of embracing their flaws, embracing their uniqueness, and really owning them, their own selves, and striving for that perfection when necessarily they shouldn't be doing that. So it's all about self-acceptance and really going in there. And this is not something that's like digging against yourself and making sure that you're trying to mask it against something like drugs or alcohol, just trying to really accept yourself for who you are. And this album really dives deep into that meaning, especially given what I talked about earlier in the background with what Adam Gontier went through in 2017 with his alcohol addiction, with going to rehab and being in rehab when his son was born and missing the birth of his son, which was really the inspiration behind this whole entire thing. And given everything that Adam Gontier has been through in the writing style, you can easily tell it comes out in a lot of the songs, and I absolutely love the move because we have seen a lot of bands do this recently in 2019 where their lead songwriter is really focusing in on a tough time in life and presenting it to the public. We've seen this earlier in September of 2019 with two bands. We saw this with Kellen Quinn going off of what happened to him in 2017-2018 following the Gossip release with Sleeping with Sirens and how his life had changed due to addiction. And then we also saw Tim Lambesis do this with the return of As I Lay Dying, with everything that happened with him. And if you want to find out everything that happened on that one, go look online or check out our album review of Shaped by Fire by As I Lay Dying. So now take a look at some of the songs that really touch on that overall theme of embracing your flaws and really not trying to hide them or mask them or really force yourself to be perfect the way society wants you to dictate. So take a look at the song Blind. It's all about getting past that addiction. The song Sirens is all about getting help and not being afraid to go and get that help. You know, Adam really spoke about missing the birth of his son on the song This August Day, which really spoke volumes. The Hunted is all about trying to find your place in life. Again, accepting yourself for who you are. And Beast is all about how to beat addiction and just beat it as a beast and just go for it and not be afraid of it. And then ignoring destructive behaviors in order to, you know, not let them take over. It's like really focusing on ignoring those behaviors. And if you do, it's going to take over on the song Martyrs. Overall, Adam really opens up on this album in a much different way than something similar with Kellen Quinn, where with what Kellen Quinn did, he ended up opening up on his album through much more personal ways and really speaking about it personally and putting a lot of that in there. Adam put it in there personally, but instead of focusing in on the individual like Kellen Quinn did, Adam focused on the overarching society. So they both hit equally hard. It's just in the overall, they hit in a different way, but they still hit hard as well. So overall, I love the theme and the meaning they went on this album, and I love how deep but broad Adam went with it. All right, now we're on to composition and instrumentation, and with this being an Adam Gontier fronted band, you know exactly what you're gonna get in terms of style. You know you're gonna get that style that was on the first Saint Asonia record. You're gonna get the exact same kind of style that 3 Days Grace had on their first 4 albums with Adam Gontier. You're gonna get this hard rock sound that's gonna be rather rough around the edges, but it's gonna all work well together in the end. So I'm curious, how do they do? So, of course, when it comes to Adam Gontier and his music, he's going to have a harder sound and a softer sound that was written on this album. So, there's a couple of songs that focus on the harder sound, a couple on the softer. With the harder, we're taking a look at a song like Blind, and this is unmistakably an Adam Gontier created sound that peaks with a shredding guitar solo because it keeps it rough around the edges, but the shredding guitar solo always brings together. The Hunted is another one that I really want to really focus in on as well, because it sounds like something that would come, you know, directly right off of 1X. When I heard him, like, this sounds like it belongs on 1X, and it has this drive to it that the instrumentals really focus on that just keeps it going and keeps it building. That sounds like a song that you could easily work out to. The song Beast, one of my favorite songs on the record, is composed in a way to keep that hard sound through and throughout, and adds in some of those shredding riffs as well to kind of just keep it the same but also different at the same time. So it really mixes that in and out. And the verses also say softer in comparison to the chorus, but it really works off and playing off that vibe. And the one thing I really liked about this song as well was the snare. It had a little bit of a different sound to it than on the rest of the album, but it really was prominent and it really brought a lot more to the song. Now they also focus on some softer sounds as well, like on Flawed Design, where it has more of this rock ballad feel to it, where the sound is a little bit more dialed back to let Adam's vocals shine. And I really do like it because it also focuses in on less acoustic and also brings in a little bit more, you know, just rock ballad, full-on still electric guitar. I really like the move on that one. It hits on more of the emotion that the whole entire album is really trying to get on. And the song Martyrs as well, because it brings in more of that acoustic guitar feel. Still features the electric guitar, though, with a couple of shredding solo parts here and there. But it also focuses on that softer sound to really bring you in and really make you feel the feeling that it's really trying to put out and the message that I mentioned earlier for Martyrs. When it comes to construction as well, there was a couple of collaborations and influence that we have to talk about. I've talked about the lead single, The Hunted, because this was collaborated on with Sully Erna, the lead singer and frontman of Godsmack, and Mike Munchak of Stain, who is also in the band as well. And they initially made this song that was supposed to be for a movie, but the movie either never picked it up or the song was never attached to any kind of a movie. So Adam Gontier ended up putting his spin on it with Sully Erna, and it sounds like something that it really works hard and really would feature well in a movie. The one thing I'm disappointed in this one is, I will get to it later, but it's all about Sully Erna's lack of a feature, or not necessarily lack of a feature, just not enough of it. There's also the song Sirens, which was actually constructed by Steve Aoki of 30 Seconds to Mars, which really surprised me when I heard it, along with Dustin Bates of Starset. So I was really surprised with this one because Those guys have more of an alt-rock feel to them, but this song blew me out of the water with its construction because it sounded like it was a mixture between what Adam Gontier easily would have done with 3 Days Grace or earlier on with Saint Asonia, and also mixing with the sound of with Instrumentation when you have Sharon actually featured on the song. The construction blew me away on this one. I absolutely love it, and I couldn't believe those guys were actually there to build the song with Adam, and it was actually their idea from the outset, so I had to give them a huge round of applause for that one. Another Fight is another song where it really mixes the 3 Days Grace styles because the verses sound like Never Too Late, but then the chorus sounds like Home, so you're still bringing in that kind of an older sound from Adam's past. Overall, the songs really feel that they're touched by Adam, and they're just completely his works, or the ones that were featured with some other, constructing artists, that they were still molded overall in Adam's image. And if you take a look at the album and you listen to it through, the first half's going to be harder than the second half, and I like the first half a lot more because it has that harder sound overall. The second half, it does get a little bit monotonous in terms of the construction, but I still think that the construction on this one, especially with some of the features and some of the collaborations, I thought they were well done. All right, so let's take a look at the vocal performance. And when it comes to Adam Gontier, he's got such a unique voice. You know exactly what kind of music it is, and you know exactly what his voice sounds like. So when you hear it, you're not mistaken. It's so raspy and gritty and rough, but it's so smooth at the exact same time, where you can hit some of those higher notes with a different sound to it. And of course, when you hear it, you know it's going to work. It's worked well on harder songs, especially in the past with 3 Days Grace and Saint Asonia, and it's worked on some of the softer songs as well. So let's get on into what they sounded like. So let's take a look at some of the songs that have a harder sound to them, that have a more gritty style of vocal, like Blind. It has a more consistent tempo and pitch from Adam's vocals that don't necessarily overpower the underlying instrumentation. Creates a really nice mixture overall. You could really feel the song has that grittier, high-pitched vocal and high-pitched scream that Adam can really pull off at the end of the verse and end of all the choruses. Now, Beast, I thought, was one of Adam's best vocal performances ever. Maybe one of his best since 1X from 3 Days Grace. So I absolutely love, because the verses are more drawn back in terms of intensity to kind of set a more complacent tone, but then transitions, it picks up a little bit, brings the intensity, and it's all through his tone. When the chorus hits, it's gritty, it's raspy, it's Adam Gontier hitting it hard, and I absolutely like it. Now I'm going to go to another Fight as well, because it's a little bit of a mixture. I mentioned it earlier, where the vocals at the beginning are similar to what he done Never Too Late from the 1X album, where they're a little bit more drawn back, a little bit more calm, but then once the chorus hits, he goes into a vocal sound that they used on Home back in 2003. So it was something that really worked out well as well, because it was like, you know what? I like it. However, I think the vocals were a tidbit missed, because in those verses, they did not hit as hard as Never Too Late did. All right, so taking a look at some of the softer sounds of the album, I thought there were a couple of missed opportunities here, and I'm going to have to comment on them. On the song This August Day, I thought it was a mixed opportunity because of what the song was so much about and how much emotion there was on it, being the worst day of Adam Gontier's life. I thought that his vocals would really be powerful and show a lot of emotion like they had on Dying Slowly, like Lost in You and Never Too Late, both of the last two from his days with 3 Days Grace. And it just wasn't there, so it just didn't have as much power as I thought it would. Ghost is one where it seemed just a tad off compared to the rest of the album and the rest of the song as well, because the first verse sounded rather muzzled, which didn't necessarily mix well with the underlying instrumentation, especially the beginning of the song. And then it goes, more... She shows more range throughout the chorus, but it just is in a way that the underlying instrumentation just doesn't necessarily mix up on. However, the bridge is where the song really gets fixed, because the higher pitched screams from Adam and the raspier vocals really do work. Martyrs is the song where he goes a lot more calm and more that rock ballad style. And I thought it was a mix between the vocals on like Leaving Minnesota and Even Though I Say from the first Saint Asonia album. And his vocals here actually provide a lot of the emotion on Martyrs, so I really did like what they did here. Alright, so now take a look at some of the collaboration on this album, because there were two that featured other vocalists. Take a look at The Hunted with Sully Erna. I thought this was a missed opportunity because Sully didn't necessarily have that much of a feature on the song, just right at the end of the bridge, and then he mixed with Adam Gontier's vocals on the last part of the chorus, and it just felt like it wasn't necessarily there enough. I thought another missed opportunity on this album was to not have a song featuring Breaking Benjamin frontman Ben Burnley, due to how close in connection Adam and Ben are, and how well their vocals go together. I mean, you can hear it on the acoustic version of Dance with the Devil by Breaking Benjamin. Now, Sirens is the one that really, I thought, shined, because Adam was featured on the song with Sharon Del Adel of Within Temptation, and it was amazing because when Sharon was on it, she really brought a lot to it. They had a mixture similar to what John Cooper and Jen Ledger do with Skillet, where of course, John is the primary vocalist and Jen does a lot of backing, but sometimes Jen does have a solo part in it as well. So think the song Awake and Alive by Skillet in terms of how the vocal pattern was constructed, where both are easily able to mesh together, but also shine on their own. Because when Sharon sings, Sharon sounds like insanely good, and that the song sounds like a Within Temptation song, but then you bring in Adam, and it sounds like something straight from Saint Asonia and 3 Days Grace, and when they mix together, it mixes really well. So overall, the construction of the vocal pattern on Sirens, I thought was fantastic. Overall, you're never going to be mistaken when it comes to Adam Gontier's song or album. He's always got that unique style in his voice. I do like what they did on a good amount of these, but at some points, I thought they did a lot of missed opportunities with showing emotion and not featuring Ben Burnley on a song, along with not using Sully Erna to the fullest of his potential. So overall, I'm going to give Flawed Design by Saint Asonia a 7.5 out of 10, which is not bad. Taking a look at what I really liked about the album was the features and the collaborations that they used on here. So with the Hunted with Sully Erna, I liked the idea there, but again, I wasn't the biggest fan of how they use Sully or just how little they use them. I loved Sirens with the collaboration with Stevie and Dustin in terms of songwriting and the mixture of the vocals with Sharon from Within Temptation. I thought it was beautifully done. Now, the first half of the album is probably where a lot of my favorites lie because it has a much harder sound to it, and it had more consistent sound like what 1X and a lot of the 3 Days Grace stuff had that I really like. So I really like what they did here, and I think they really hit the nail on the head in a lot of different aspects, like with the Hunted, like with Beast, like with Blind, and like with Sirens. So Beast I have to comment on as well because that is my favorite song on the album because it hits hard, and I think it's Adam's best vocal performance since his days with 3 Days Grace. Also, take a look at that album artwork. It's amazing. It's easily in competition with Alter Bridges Walk the Sky for the best album artwork of 2019, hands down. Alright, so what I dislike about the album, there's really two parts of it. It's the second half of the album, especially songs 7 through 10 on the record. They have a much softer sound to them, and that's not a bad thing, but the problem is they sound really monotonous to the point where when I was listening to the album the first 2 times straight through without really deconstructing these songs, I did enjoy it, but when I really started to deconstruct these songs, they all had a real sameness to them that really kind of got me tired out, so I really wasn't a big fan of that. Also, when the softer vocals came in on songs like This August Day, Ghost, and Justify, I just didn't think that Adam showed the proper emotion that could have easily brought these songs up a notch. Like I mentioned on This August Day, given how strong of an emotional connection he has to that song, I just thought there'd be a little bit more there. But overall, I gotta say this, Adam Gontier is an incredible songwriter and an incredible musician and is one of my favorites overall. Now, this probably wasn't one of my favorites of his albums that he's ever come out with when it comes to the original 3 Days Grace album, 1X, Life Starts Now, Transit to Venus, Saint Asonia, and Flawed Design. I don't think it's one of my favorites. I think it might be better than not Flawed Design. I think it might be better than Transit to Venus, but that might be it. And please don't get me wrong, it is not because this album is bad, it's because those other ones I really think are fantastic. And it's really hard to beat something that's really that fantastic. But overall, this is a good album. It will be probably a top 10 album of the year. So Adam Gontier did hit the nail on the head. In his comparison to his best work since 1X, I'm not entirely sure on that. I would have to disagree. But do I like Flawed Design? Oh yeah. Alright, well that's it for me. Thank you for watching the review of Flawed Design by Saint Asonia on the My Slightly Rock 2000 Day YouTube channel. If you like this video, give me the like. If you don't like, give me a dislike, but put your review in the comments so I can see it and we can compare notes and talk about it. Also, hit that subscribe button. Nope. The one in the corner and the bell icon to be notified when we release videos every single Wednesday and sometimes some special Monday ones. Also, follow us on social media because we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You're going to get all your My Song of the Day stuff, get behind the scenes videos. You're going to get our live streams on Instagram every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. You're going to get our song of the day features. So on our small band Saturdays, you're going to get the 30-second feature, but now you're going to get the 30-second feature on every song of the day on all those platforms. So let's get that on out of here, and let's talk about the Chord Progression Podcast. We have our very own podcast with episodes out every single Tuesday where we do much deeper dives into the album song by song basis like we had been doing on our previous YouTube videos, but now we're doing it on there. We also interview smaller bands. We are trying to interview bigger bands as well, and we just like to talk to you guys as well. So we have the fans, even you, on the Chord Progression Podcast. So you can listen to that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and right here on YouTube. And if you want to be a part of the Chord Progression Podcast and beyond, just send us a DM on any of our social media platforms. Now let's get that out of here and let's talk lastly. If you have an Amazon Alexa, please enable our Alexa skill on your device, because then all the My Song of the Day features, so even the ones that, you don't like or you do like, you can listen for 24 hours and you get to enjoy them. It's a great way to, start your day. And your day with Small Band Saturday, it's to hear the whole entire song for those small bands and really get a feel for them. So please enable that on your Alexa device. And I want to thank you guys for being a part of this, and thank you for watching. It means the world to me. I love doing this stuff, so thank you. And that's it for me. This is Kevin from the My Song Day Rock 2008 YouTube channel. And let's see if I can do it with this hat. Oh, it's on the back end, but see ya!